a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay. Living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off. Good morning from Paradise Surfers. My name is Crypto Amaru. We have Crypto Hitman in the house, and it is Wednesday, November 26th. The markets are feeling a little more bullish. I'm seeing bullishness permeating my feed and my timeline. Love to see it. The market is gearing up for the big Ethereum upgrade coming on December 3rd called Fusaka. Is this the catalyst we need for ETH to run to $10,000? We will discuss. Texas is buying Bitcoin. It wasn't a nation state. We thought maybe a nation state would be jumping in, but it is one of the biggest states in the U.S., whose economy is probably bigger than most nation states, buying $10 million of Bitcoin. That is just the start. Which nation state comes next? Florida, perhaps? Who knows? I know it won't be California, those woke idiots. Anyway, I digress. I'm feeling good. The market's bullish. We got Thanksgiving tomorrow. Feeling good. How are you today, Nick?
Doing pretty good. Just got it shared everywhere. Yes, the Texas news is some of the biggest news. And it's not about 10 million as a number, because 10 million in Bitcoin, that's great. We'll take any buys, but that isn't really that impactful for a $2 trillion, $3 trillion asset. But it means that all of the regulation, all of the paperwork, all of the bureaucracy is done, and the ability to actually buy Bitcoin is underway because it actually happened. We also saw that Donald Trump Jr. was, I believe, in Texas, unveiling a new American-powered Bitcoin mining facility that was absolutely massive. So this is a trend, because that means Texas will continue to buy Bitcoin, Texas will continue to mine Bitcoin, and other states are going to follow suit. So now you're going to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve that isn't just holding in the United States government, but actually going to be accumulating through tax revenue or other net neutral ways, and then you're going to start to see 1, 5, 10, 15 states actually buying and participating on the Bitcoin network. That creates higher lows, guys. We're in this for set inflation rates, scarcity, and when you have buys, the supply and demand curve goes up, which means price goes up. Of course, Bitcoin down here doesn't always feel great, but if you zoom out, Bitcoin was just 15,000 like a year and a half ago. Bitcoin was $1,000 back in 2017. So up and to the right has been the trajectory for Bitcoin, and I think that continues.
Love to see Texas buying $10 million worth of Bitcoin. Yeah, the price, or excuse me, the amount, that's not the headline. It's just the fact that they've done it. And I think this is something that will spur state FOMO. Not nation state FOMO, perhaps, but actual just other U.S. states to jump in. I know Florida, under Ron DeSantis, has been very pro-Bitcoin. You look at pretty much across all the red states, and they're very much pro-Bitcoin, pro-freedom, anti-regulation, and that's kind of what Bitcoin represents. So the fact that Texas jumped in, the first state to do it, the biggest red state, the most powerful, the most influential red state, is jumping in and doing this, that bodes very well for other states to jump in, and perhaps even the federal government. Does this tip the scales in favor of the U.S. saying, you know what? The feds, they don't want to get behind the 8 ball on accumulating more Bitcoin. Maybe we're going to jump in and start buying Bitcoin in a net neutral way as well. So this is nothing but bullish, nothing but positive. I saw people complain, oh, 10 million is not enough. Like, come on, man. What is this? You sound like my son when I get him a gift, and he's like, this is the wrong toy.
Yeah, it's not about the dollar amount like we just said for all the reasons, but it also provides clarity not only to Texas but to other states. Now other states that want to do this but either don't have the IQ or the politicians or the understanding on how to do it, now you can just copy and paste from Texas the same legislation, the same regulatory guidance, and the same manner to do the same thing. So it's a lot easier to do those things. Take the China mantra, wait for somebody else to innovate and create, and then just copy it. Now our states can do the same after Texas.
I'm just waiting for the Democrats to come around. That's the problem with Bitcoin and crypto, that Trump has gotten so behind it. It's become extremely politicized, which it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be a political issue. Technology isn't inherently politically biased one way or another, so it doesn't actually make logical sense. But the problem is Trump, he's pro. A lot of people are against Trump. So everything Trump likes and does, I'm against it. I do think in, I don't know, 5, 10 years, whatever the case may be, the Democratic states also come around to it because they'll have no choice. They'll realize that being anti-crypto has no constituency. There's no political gain in doing it, and they need to also jump on the bandwagon. But until then, it's going to be the red states leading the charge. It's going to be the federal government under Trump leading the charge. And the Democratic states will just be, left buying bags higher, I guess.
Yeah, and if we look here at the charts, let's pull those up. We do see that the NASDAQ is up about 0.5% today. So the stock market continues to get back some gains after the sell-off scare that we saw not too long ago. Remember, we were in a live show saying that downside risk is at 24,000 on NASDAQ. We wicked to 23,900. Wow, levels keep playing out, and now we are rallying. Now, you want to get above this level, really, 25,222, which is what it's at, because I would take out a previous high and continue a bull trend higher for longer, which will obviously make the road easier for Bitcoin and ETH. Now, Bitcoin and ETH have not followed NASDAQ and the general stock indices so far, so I'm not saying it's needed, but it definitely makes it much, much easier. So what is Bitcoin doing today? $87,300 after the big capitulation down to 80,000. You can see the green arrows where we started buying back Bitcoin, and we still have more Bitcoin to buy as we have now rallied right back into this area that we've had on the charts all the way back here since April of 2025. A major area of confluence, and we've been saying that we will get back to this area, consolidate, and then we want to attack and get above the $95,000 level. So let's see if that can happen this holiday season. Remember, we were talking about, man, I don't want to be made fun of by my family, seasonality, this sucks, this sucks. We kept saying, hey, we got a little more time. And although 87,000 isn't fun with Thanksgiving coming up tomorrow, if we can see some more green candles today, you won't feel as so ashamed talking about $90,000 Bitcoin as you would 80. Because remember, I think 90,000 Bitcoin would be higher than what it was last Thanksgiving when they were talking to you about it. I could be wrong, but it is very close. So let's see what happens over the next 24 hours before you got to go deal with your family members. And then hopefully by Christmas Eve and Christmas, we got a much brighter picture on Bitcoin and crypto charts. And for those of you who don't want to hold your head down in shame, just bring up the stock market as well, because you're probably invested over there. You probably have done well on assets like Coinbase and others that are all crypto related, and you can lean your head on that. At least stocks are up and to the right when everybody else was doom and gloom.
Couple things. First, Nick, you need to complete your buys and really solidify the crypto hitman strategic reserve, which I know you're loading up Bitcoin and creating your own strategic reserve. So you need to do your part, buy some Bitcoin, help push the price to 90,000. So, you're not ashamed at the Thanksgiving dinner table that, Bitcoin is sub 90K.
Yeah,
so do your part.
Can all crypto people, can we set a time when we're all sitting down around the Thanksgiving dinner and all hit market buy with $100 or $500 to get a green candle to show off?
There you go. Yeah.
What we need to do.
Some green dildos on Thanksgiving, just what Aunt Bessie ordered and cooked up. So that's one thing. The other thing I'll add on the Thanksgiving discussion. I know to us crypto natives and crypto degens, 87,000 kind of hurts. It's like, damn, we were just at 125. My portfolio was all-time highs like 6 weeks ago. I'm feeling kind of shitty. This sucks. I'll tell you this. To the normies out there who do not own any Bitcoin, $87,000 Bitcoin is still mind-boggling to them. Because they've known about this stuff. I mean, everyone who's not lived under a rock has known about Bitcoin since 2017, when it was 1,000, ran to 20, okay, got into the national zeitgeist. People have known about it. So the very fact it's even at 87,000 is like, holy, can you believe, to a normal person who isn't obsessed with the markets and the everyday ups and downs, Bitcoin $87,000 is still mind-boggling to them. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves and feel too embarrassed and ashamed. It is still the best performing asset in the probably in all of mankind, frankly. Certainly the past 15 years. So do not hang your head in shame, guys. Hang your head high. Hold your head high. Be proud of this asset class, and the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come.
Yeah, and I just looked last November. I totally forgot because we've been winning so much. Not really, but last November is when Trump won the presidential election. How could I forget? Bitcoin was down Germany was selling all of their Bitcoin in September. Then, as the polls started coming out that Trump had a good chance of winning, we went from like $50,000 Bitcoin up into the 60s. Then, when he won the election, we ground from 60,000 all the way to $100,000 for the first time. That was last November. So, November 4th, right before the election, even though polls were heavily in his favor, we were down around $68,000 Bitcoin off that $50,000 low just a couple months earlier.
There you go. Yeah, we're still up year over year. We did hit all-time highs 6 weeks ago. We've gone through these corrections hundreds of times if you've been in the space for, anything more than a year or two. This is just par for the course, standard bull market correction. So there's really nothing to be ashamed of. Bitcoin's still the best performing asset in human history. Right now, I think you bring up a good point around stocks. Right now, and really for the past 6 months or even a year, it's felt like the stock market, particularly the AI trade, has really just dominated the narrative. It's dominated even retail. It's outperformed crypto. It's outperformed Bitcoin. But remember, everything moves in cycles. And so Bitcoin's time will come. But if you look, Google yesterday, up like 6%, adds 300 billion to its market cap in a day. So, that's the kind of numbers that are getting played around in the stock market. And, because the stock market's doing well, AI's in the zeitgeist, that's what's outperforming at the moment. But that's not always going to be the case. So things will eventually move down, cycle down into the, quote, riskier assets of Bitcoin, likely around the time they start quantitative easing. So if you've been in stocks, you've been in the AI trade, congratulations. If you've been holding Bitcoin, holding Ethereum, your time will come. Not to worry, and certainly not to be ashamed about at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, and here we go. Here is Ethereum, finally buying back an Ethereum position after selling above 4,000. I've been saying we need to get back above 3,000 to 3,100 to feel a little more comfy, and then we can kind of build off those levels. We keep flirting in this area, but we haven't gotten above it, currently at $2,914. But I don't know what it was last night. Maybe it was the feed. Maybe it was just a realization of where we are in the market cycle. But I became very bullish on Ethereum once again. And then I took a deeper dive into the feed, and others are getting bullish as well. And you started sharing news articles to talk about today's feed, and we started getting bullish. So we'll see what happens. We'll start with the one bearish thing that I've seen about Ethereum, and then we'll go into all the bullish reasons and what is going on there. The bearish thing is Vitalik. We talked about how Vitalik was becoming a Chad. He went on stage, and instead of dancing with unicorns, he had sunglasses on. He had shades on, the watch on, and was doing his thing. Wow, Vitalik is switching it up, and then what do you know? Soy boy moves are coming. Now, there's no proof that he is sold yet, but Vitalik did just move over 1,000 Ethereum worth over $2.9 million from his safe wallet. Will that be sold? What is that being used for? Who knows? But that's never good to see, as Ethereum has now bounced off of the low and trying to attack the $3,000 level. Well, your founder moving $3 million worth is not a good look and is not going to instill confidence in the market participants.
I think people need to calm down with this Vitalik moves coins FUD. Look, if he moved it to an exchange, then sure. Like, okay, if he moved it straight to Coinbase, fine. Cause FUD, complain, call him a soy boy, sure. But this could just be routine, sort of wallet maintenance. He could be moving it to participate in DeFi. I somehow doubt that on the eve of the biggest Ethereum upgrade in the past few years, Fusaka, he's dumping coins publicly in advance of that. That would make zero sense. I mean, that's soy boy times 1,000 behavior if he does that. So my guess is routine wallet maintenance, perhaps DeFi. Perhaps, who knows, sent it to his mom because he loves her for the holidays. Who knows? But I just don't think he's selling Ethereum publicly right before the biggest upgrade. And right before the feed, everyone's getting so bullish on Ethereum. Like, what are you doing, bro? So I don't think he's selling it. Let's see. Let's wait until we get confirmation of that. But I don't think it's happening. So people need to calm down a little bit. There's a lot of that happening on X at any given time. Right? Like something happens, it's not a complete story, and people are freaking out one way or another. So bullish, so bearish. Like, let's just wait for the facts to come out, guys. Just calm down. Things aren't usually quite as bullish or quite as bearish as you might imagine. Not, $3 million market sell won't do anything on Ethereum anyway. It's just more optics. But enough of the bearishness on ETH. Let's talk about some of the bullish stuff. What do we got? We've got that story about this Fusaka upgrade. Maybe we can get to that.
Yeah, let's go through the chat real quick, say hi to everybody, and then we'll get over there.
All right, let's do that. So we got Meek Chapo in the house. Good morning, Martin. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Nanso. Gav here in the house. Appreciate all you guys tuning in. Daily live stream. Hopefully you're learning something. Hopefully you're having a little bit of fun. Hopefully you've been incentivized or compelled to not panic sell dips, which is how you don't make it in the market. So we're here to instill some confidence as well. I know the market's been brutal, absolutely brutal for us holders and true believers. But I still, been in the space long enough that holding through the shit is the way you actually make money, believe it or not. So as hard as that is. So shout out to you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. All right, what do we got Ethereum story-wise here?
Yeah, breaking news, the Fusaka upgrade is in 7 days. Normally there's a big hype cycle before these upgrades where you have a month or two of price going before the fundamentals, but that hasn't been the case here, and that's because of the liquidity crisis and the drawdown and the overall market conditions, where fundamentals for the first time in a long time are actually leading price, and this is the reason why I think Ethereum is at a great value. This upgrade is in 7 days where layer 2s will start burning ETH. One of the downfalls of layer 2s is everybody was using Ethereum technology, but it really wasn't benefiting ETH all that much. It wasn't burning ETH. You really didn't need ETH on all these layer 2s, and it was extracting liquidity and market participants from the main chain to utilize layer 2s, which means what? Projects and ETH itself on the ETH mainnet were struggling to gain a footing and create those ever-coveted green candles. But after this upgrade, Coinbase's base will burn ETH. Robinhood's Layer 2 will burn ETH. OpenAI's World Chain burning ETH. Sony burning ETH. Alibaba burning ETH. UAE burning ETH. Kraken burning ETH. Lighter burning ETH. Deutsche Bank burning ETH. Arbitrum to burn ETH, etc., etc., etc. Corporations will start burning ETH as well as they release their stablecoins. And the hated JP Morgan, another story we'll talk about, of course, has their stablecoin that will start burning ETH. Remember when they were just FUDing Bitcoin and Ethereum like yesterday? Well, now they are turning bullish as they are looking to launch a Bitcoin bond. Pretty interesting timing. FUD Bitcoin, FUD your competitor MicroStrategy, release a product that will compete with MicroStrategy and will also need to buy cheap Bitcoin. Makes sense.
Yeah, we'll cover that story in a bit. I think we've got that queued up as well. But yeah, the Fusaka upgrade's a big deal. I don't think it's priced in yet. I don't think there was a buy the rumor happening. I mean, God, if there was, that's just depressing because we're still sub $3,000 ETH. So I don't think it's been like a buy the rumor, sell the news. I think it's one of these long-term, extremely beneficial upgrades to the network, similar to what we saw when it upgraded from proof of work to proof of stake. It's on par with that level of improvement. It's not just the burning of the L2s, L2s burning ETH. There's a host of benefits. It's becoming faster. It's becoming cheaper, more scalable. There's wallet improvements. It's becoming more user-friendly. I mean, this is a massive upgrade, and it's setting the stage for another upgrade, which is coming, I believe, sometime in early 26. So that's like, if you zoom out, it's one thing I just love about Ethereum. Unlike Bitcoin, which I also love Bitcoin, but unlike Bitcoin, it's constantly upgrading, improving, and evolving with this space, which is kind of, I think, what you need if you're going to become, the leading L1, which I think Ethereum is heading in that direction for actual sort of everyday usage. You need to be nimble, you need to move, you need to evolve. So very happy to see this. Great for the price of ETH with the additional burns. Great for usability, scalability. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a little mini alt season or ETH season coming out of this if people start deploying coins on the L1 again.
I mean, Thomas Lee still thinks $7,000 ETH by January now. He moved it back a month due to the liquidity crisis in October, but that would be pretty wild, and there definitely would be a forced alt season. Do I think all alts would moon instantly if ETH goes straight to 7,000? No, but realize how liquidity dynamics work, and it will drag a lot of things up. Momentum and morale shifts, which means people will FOMO in and be more risk on. And then also projects like Pulse Chain, who have massive bags of Ethereum, can deploy that ETH to pump their network. Pulse Chain's not the only one. It's just the only one that we're really participating in that does, in fact, have an Ethereum treasury on the books. So, and you mentioned it slightly. This Fusaka upgrade opens up the doors for the next upgrade, which is going to bring privacy optionality to the Ethereum network. We know that the privacy narrative has been very big. We've seen the price performance in Zcash, Zen, Dash, and others, and privacy more than ever is going to be needed. And I know it was very important and had big runs in 2017 and 2020 and 2021. Biden and Kamala Harris regulated it into the dirt, so privacy sold off hard. But now with the embracing from the U.S. government and regulation clarity, we're seeing privacy come back, and it is very much needed. We talk about almost daily the privacy hindering that is occurring in the EU and the UK and Australia and Canada, and even the possibility of privacy hindering happening here in the United States in 3 years when Trump indeed leaves office and Democrats could potentially take power once again. So privacy is very important. I think it catches a bid, but nonetheless, I think it just provides another utility for Ethereum and the ETH token moving forward.
You know, it's going to be interesting to see when Ethereum does its next upgrade and adds those privacy features, and you can obfuscate your transactions, hide your transactions. There's going to be some other privacy features, as I understand it, as well. What happens to like the purpose-built privacy chains and privacy coins when all of a sudden the most valuable and useful chain and asset also now has privacy features? Does that ultimately hurt Zcash, Monero, Dash, etc.? Or do those catch a bid because privacy becomes, the narrative again? I don't know, but at the end of the day, you kind of zoom out and you really can foresee a future where Ethereum just kind of has it all. Wall Street acceptance, yield-bearing asset, burning more than it issues, so lower inflation than a Bitcoin, privacy built in, easy to use from a usability standpoint, end user standpoint. It's got all the DeFi. What chain could overtake Ethereum at that point? Most decentralized. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like coming very clear that Ethereum is going to be the big winner. Now, obviously, you can find gains and you can find outperformance at times elsewhere. But if you're looking for a really safe bet with a lot of upside, I just think Ethereum is it, man. The ticker is ETH.
Yeah, you make a good point there. The only thing I wish they had was a more normal and more Chad founder and foundation. I don't really like Vitalik. He can't even speak English very well. Not in the fact that he's a foreigner, just in the fact that he's on the spectrum so much. He's hard to even understand. He can't really articulate. The foundation of the people he put around him have proven to be very DEI and woke. We've seen that. And the devs, they're deving, but how much is... They say they're selling for dev costs millions and millions and millions. So maybe a little bit cheaper devs would be nice as well. But, other than that, you're square on the head there. I just, I don't love the team that surrounds Ethereum or the, mantra in which they live by. If they are truly going to be the biggest winner in crypto, it's not really the direction that I want to head as far as culture. But is what it is. Pump our bags, and we'll care a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, the DEI stuff is fixable. I think they already fixed that to a large degree. They had some woman or some trans, I don't know what it was, leading up to the Ethereum Foundation a year or two ago, and then she was ousted. And they replaced her with a guy, I guess. Not to say the guy's girl, it doesn't really, but if you're pumped full of testosterone, you're like, I need to make money. If you're pumped full of estrogen, you're like, I need to sing kumbaya, I'll help the poor people. And we're in the financial markets. We're looking to make money here, guys. This isn't this is not a charity business. So yeah, I'm happy to see they fixed the DEI stuff. Vitalik, you take the good stuff with the bad. I would imagine that for every guy like Nick who's this guy's a soy boy, blah, blah, there's probably people he's a genius. I love how he thinks outside the box. He's kind of like Elon Musk, whatever. I mean, there's gonna be people that like his approach. I don't necessarily love it. What would be great, frankly, is to see a second figurehead who was a dude in a suit, straight out of Wall Street, Chad, think Jordan Belfort, but shilling Ethereum. And then you can have Vitalik doing his weirdo stuff, and the nerds will love it, and the devs will love it, and then you got the Chad who's pumping it up for Wall Street types.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of starting to see that with the Ethereum DATs. You have Thomas Lee out there, you have Kathy Wood out there, you have Joe Lubin out there, you have World Liberty Finance out there, really pushing Ethereum from that perspective, which, like you said, does really help performance over time and really appeal to the more financial Chad individuals who are interested in making money or being early to new technology. So I think those are helping, and I think those will continue to help. We look at the World Liberty Finance wallet here, and they definitely certainly believe in the upside of Ethereum. $8.2 billion in value in ETH versus 6 million in Mantle, 3 million in BNB, 674,000 in Solana, 25K in Base, 7K on Avalanche, and only 4K on Tron. So they are very big on holding on Ethereum and the Ethereum chain, and their portfolio is heavily weighted, so much so that it just says 100% here, and the computer's not even properly calculating what the percentages of the portfolio for Ethereum.
Do they know something? Do they know so? I don't think they have like insider information necessarily. I just think their analysts understand that Ethereum is going to be the winning L1 chain. I mean, I know Solana's there, fast, cheap. I know BNB is there, fast, cheap. CZ, whatever. But if you kind of put all the factors together, you realize Ethereum is going to be the winning L1. It already has been, frankly. So that's going to continue. Now, my question for Martin is, does Wednesday Girl like Ethereum? Is she bullish on Ethereum? And does she like the fact that we own Ethereum, that we're bullish on Ethereum? So, that's something to ask Wednesday Girl. By the way, shout out to Martin, putting together great memes, great content for Crypto Paradise. We appreciate you, bud. For anyone watching now on the live stream or afterwards, remember to jump into the Crypto Paradise Telegram. That's where a lot of the magic happens, a lot of the memes, a lot of the fun. And also, don't forget to subscribe, or I guess follow, I should say, our new Facebook page. Our new Facebook page is up. Nick, you gotta follow too. You gotta follow too. Tell your wife, tell her friends. That's an underappreciated forum that does not have a ton of oversaturation in terms of crypto. It really does not. For a long time, Facebook was basically anti-crypto. You couldn't even barely talk about it at all. But they've changed their policies. They're a lot more, free speech. That's a great. I'm happy for that. But I guess a lot of the crypto companies haven't really moved over there yet. So that's a big opportunity. We're over on Facebook. Get involved. Give us a follow over there. Leave a review. Leave a comment. I think we can build a really robust community on Facebook. It's going to be more newbies. It's not going to be people deep in the trenches like on X all day. It's more newbies trying to just understand the basics about crypto. And that's, Crypto Paradise, that's kind of our bread and butter, right? Like macro discussions, charts, talking about the major assets, talking about the big news stories and move the market. We're not necessarily calling a new meme every day. So, if you're more of a newbie, I think it's aligned very well. So anyway, follow the Facebook page. Leave us a like, leave us a comment. We really appreciate that. What else we got going on today?
I'm just scouring the feed, just trying to look. Not too much. Everything is either slight green or slight red today across the board in both the crypto and stock markets. So there's nothing major for us to do. Besides, we can also talk about Bitcoin dominance is falling off again, which you would say, oh my gosh, where's the alt season at? All this means right now with the slight fall off in Bitcoin dominance, which again, we've been calling for this to continue to trend lower, is that Ethereum, BNB, and the large players are starting to have some outperformance here. And we're back down here to 58%. People are like, well, wow, the alt season must have already been here. The top's already in. Well, let's zoom out here. Let's look at the previous alt seasons. This is the previous alt seasons. 2021 alt season went from 70% dominance of Bitcoin, 71%, all the way down to 39. How about 2017 alt season? We went from 97% dominance all the way down to 36. So 36% for massive altcoin euphoria, 39% for massive altcoin euphoria, and so far we're up here. The lowest we've seen is 57%. We're currently at 58. I've been saying even if you're bullish on Bitcoin to outperform and alt season not to really be as big as it has in the past, you probably come down and at least retest this gold line, which would still put you at 49%. If we go from 59 to 49, there would be massive gains in the altcoin sector, because this will probably happen on the back of Bitcoin actually going to new highs and being, worst case scenario, 150, 180,000 Bitcoin. Meanwhile, dominance drops another 10%, which means that's where you have massive Ethereum valuations pushing 10,000, BNB pushing 2,000, and altcoin gems going from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in market cap.
I think it's going to happen. It's not going to be arbitrary and just happen on a random day for no apparent reason. It's going to happen when the liquidity conditions allow for it to happen. So we do need that rate cut to actually happen on the 10th. We can talk about the PPI numbers that just, or excuse me, the labor market numbers that just dropped today, that may sway the Fed one way or another. So you need liquidity conditions to be right. You probably need quantitative easing to start. You need Bitcoin to have grind higher too. I just don't see, Ethereum hitting 10,000 when Bitcoin's, 120. Like, it just doesn't, that's just not how it's going to go. So, yeah, we have more time here. We got all the time in the world, right? We're still young. We're not dying tomorrow. We can wait. We can be patient. We can wait till mid-2026 to get rich. It looks like that's where we're headed. But, it's going to come down to liquidity. It's going to come down to Fed policy, as it always does. But, yeah, for those who are looking for alt season to happen tomorrow, that's just, you're not going to, it's just ain't happening, guys.
Yeah, I think that Bitcoin dominance is just a reflection on where we are in the market cycle, and another data point that shows me that the 4-year cycle isn't still in place. I have the private Discord at patreon.com/learncrypto, and a couple people in there are like, oh, this Bob guy, said that the top is in, and now we're going to have a relief rally, but not go to new highs, and then we're going to go down for 2 years. I mean, how innovative of an idea is that? And I'm just like, guys, that's literally what the traditional 4-year cycle is, and calling it after the top already happened isn't innovative at all. That's just saying that there's going to be status quo, and Bitcoin is going to follow a similar trajectory to it did in 2017 and 2021, except this time there was no parabolic run. This time the quantitative easing hasn't even started yet, so to me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think we're in the part of the cycle now where people are like, well, this guy called the one top, and he might be right, and we're going to have a relief rally and go down to doom. It's like, that ideology is exactly what has been the outcome for the past 2 cycles. That isn't innovative, and it could be the reality, but it just doesn't line up with the macro fundamentals that are occurring, and people are just saying this because that's what happened the past 2 cycles.
I would ask anyone who still believes in the 4-year cycle what they think about Bitcoin price vis-a-vis the business cycle, right? You overlay those 2 charts, they're basically identical. I would ask them, what do you think happens to risk assets when Fed eases policy? Do you recall in 2021 what happened when the Fed dropped interest rates to 0 and the Treasury and the Fed started to pump, trillions into the economy? I'm not saying we're going to get a COVID-style stimulus, but what does one think when those things occur? What do you think is going to happen to the Bitcoin? And do you believe then that those things are on the eve of happening or not? You kind of have to lay out the facts and lay out sort of the historical present. The 4-year halving cycle, I mean, it almost was just an incredible coincidence that, year after the halving, that, Bitcoin, hit all-time highs and then crashed from there. It was all related to the business cycle and Fed policy. When you look back at the data, you see that clearly, right? So you got to ask those people those questions. You got to show them some of the facts, show them some of the figures, the charts. And then ask them, what do you think is going to happen then? Like, look, form your own opinion. You know what I mean? It's not financial advice. It's just here's some of the data points that you may want to look at before you follow, whatever dude Bob says on X.
Yeah, not to say that it can't be wrong. It's just the data continues to say otherwise. And like you said, it was a stroke of genius by Satoshi, that individual or that group, to do a 4-year halving cycle, overlay it, and line it up with the 4-year business cycle to supercharge potential gains by cutting inflation rates while the business cycle is underway and injecting liquidity into the markets. So, I mean, that was a stroke of genius. I don't think that was pure luck or coincidence. And that is how it played out. Because if we look at this ISM chart here, guys, I'd really never looked at this before until we started looking at it when I had this theory of the 5-year cycle. I mean, my gosh, here you go. Look back here. This is the Bitcoin top. This is the altcoin top. Expansion, Bitcoin top, altcoin top. Next cycle, like more expansion, Bitcoin top, altcoin top. Bear cycle, bear cycle, bear cycle. Look where we're at. So for 3 cycles, Bitcoin topped, altcoins topped when the ISM topped. Not only did that happen, the bear market lined up perfectly, and you had expansion cycle after cycle as the M2 money supply and the business cycle continues to expand, because we know that fiat currency is inflating away globally and liquidity is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So do we have another expansion? That would be this upper line, which would be the biggest Bitcoin and crypto cycle ever in history, which would mean you would have to be on a 5-year cycle because we haven't had a parabolic move. Or do we even get down here to the lower trend line, which means, yes, Bitcoin still probably gets to 150, 180,000, Ethereum probably 10,000, and we still could probably make some good gains on altcoins. We just got to be a little more picky if we're going to really change our financial future for ourselves and our families. either way points to much higher, as the ISM is currently at 48, and the previous highs were at 57, 60, and even 65 last cycle. So we are watching this chart closely, and the timing of this also lines up greatly with QT ending December 1st. More rate cuts in QE and starting in December, January, February, March, and all the other things that we keep saying are lining up for the 2026 M2 money supply and PMI and ISM and everything that's going on here. So I marked up this chart because I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. Hopefully we do, in fact, see the expansion continue to occur, and we'll be looking at these lines to say, hey, the market is getting a little frothy. We don't know when the exact top is, but let's start taking profits along the way as we start to run into some of these levels.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. You may ask yourself, what drives the business cycle? What drives this, ISM purchasing power, whatever this chart signifies? Well, again, it comes back to the Fed policy. So if you zoom in on this chart, when did the last crash happen on this chart? It happened when the Fed was raising rates, right? And then if you look, the business cycle starts to grind up here. What was that? Kind of like at the end of 24, right? Something like that. End of 23? So that Fed starts to cut, and then it starts grinding up, and Bitcoin's grinding up too. So it really, I mean, the whole thing matches up, the whole thing lines up, but we're nowhere near the top of this thing. And the way you get it to spike up like that is you need the Fed to start injecting money back into the economy. And that's what's about to happen here with QT ending and with hopefully QE starting sometime in 26. So, that's what drives it. It's never really been about the 4-year halving, especially now. I mean, if you look at the amount of additional Bitcoin that are being mined and entering the market every day, it's actually very, very small amount relative to the total market cap of Bitcoin. So why would that have this massive effect on a $2 trillion asset to the point where, it's either going to pump it or dump it, when you're talking about minuscule numbers actually at this point, Bitcoin entering the market, every day, of course gets cut in half, but that's still it's a very low amount relative to the total market cap. So that it doesn't make a lot of sense for that to be the reason why the market would pump and dump. But the Fed moving money into the economy or sucking money back out of the economy, and that's what's going to move the risk assets.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on this chart. I would say you should probably add it to your trading view as well, anybody watching, and we'll see if this plays out. Again, there's no guarantees. We knew there was going to be volatility as people who believe in the 4-year cycle would be selling off and taking profits. We just thought that Bitcoin would have a higher price. We also wouldn't have a liquidity crisis to cause such a big drawdown. But we've been saying this. Go watch our videos from a year ago that there was going to be volatility in Q4 of 2025, as this could be the self-fulfilling prophecy of the 4-year cycle, and there was going to be a tug-of-war between 4-year cyclists and those who are on the 5-year cycle or the super cycle camp, in which we are. So let's see how this plays out. ISM data is on our side. The bull market peak indicators are on our side. 0 of 30 have been hit. The fact that Fed policy is about to go from QT to QE is on our side. The fact that Powell is about to be out and a pro-Bitcoin Fed chair is about to be in is on our side. The fact that Donald Trump is in power another 3 years is on our side. So this is the first time in a very long time, I'm going to say it again, the first time in a very long time that fundamentals in crypto are leading price. Could I be wrong? Yes, I could be wrong. But was I right about Bitcoin hitting 100,000 by the end of 2024 when everybody else was saying Bitcoin was going to zero? Yes, I was. Now, has $244,000 Bitcoin happened yet? No, but everybody was calling for 250, and the cycle technically isn't over. We were calling 244 by the end of 2025 on the assumption that the cycle would be over somewhere in December or January, and the data is showing that that isn't the case. So let's see what happens over the next 3 months, 6 months, 8 months from now. Let's keep an eye on the ISM. Let's keep an eye on bull market peak indicators. Let's keep an eye on Fed policies. And let's keep an eye on that M2 money supply and see if it starts getting injected into risk-on assets. And our favorite risk-on assets are Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Amen. Frank jumping in. Follow the money, forget about the rest. Liquidity dry equals bear, liquidity flow equals bull. I know Frank pretty damn well from the Kai community. He actually works in the financial industry. But yeah, I mean, we always overcomplicate things, I think, in these markets. Love to analyze every little thing and just overanalyze, just overthink it all. But yeah, it really does come down to as simple as liquidity dry equals bear, liquidity flow equals bull. We just haven't seen liquidity flow yet in 2025, So And the Fed, I know they've cut rates twice, but every time they've cut the rates, Powell's come out in the speech and said, no, we might stop. Don't count on us doing this again. We're worried about tariffs and we're worried about inflation, blah, blah, blah. So, he's always thrown cold water. Good news is he's out in May. I think Trump is about to announce, or may have already announced, the replacement. I know there's been rumors of a few different names. But, so we got a lot going for us, got a lot on our side. I hope you guys have held on. You know who else is holding on, despite the FUD they've been causing? JP Morgan. Just a couple days ago, it's all over the feed that they're trying to crush Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. They're trying to get them delisted from this MSCI index, which would then lead them to be delisted from the NASDAQ for selling, crush MicroStrategy. And we're wondering why. I'm thinking to myself, they just hate Bitcoin. They're just anti it. It's pet rock, blah, blah, blah. Jamie Dimon always talking shit. No, it turns out they were building their own yield-bearing instrument, a bond, that's actually going to have higher returns than whatever MicroStrategy stocks would provide. So, follow what they do, not what they say. And here's the smoking gun for the whole FUD that we saw over the past week.
It's unbelievable. Jamie Dimon, I don't use the word hate very much, but Jamie Dimon, I actually hate him. And the reason I hate him so much is I've been in the space for a long time, and he has just been the, antithesis of Bitcoin, hating on it, doing this, doing that. But then as soon as there's a window for him or JP Morgan to make money or push something on their clients, then they just switch up their whole tune and want us to forget about it. And now JP Morgan's even been invited to Bitcoin conferences. I would never let this guy on the stage. I do not care. There's other major brands, Charles Schwab, BlackRock, whatever, that you can embrace before I would ever embrace JP Morgan, this weasel of a man. What a scumbag. And 2 days ago, shitting on Bitcoin, shitting on MicroStrategy, dumping it, shorting it, fudding it, paying for ads to make you hate Bitcoin, only for them to be like, well, we're going to be launching our own Bitcoin-backed bond. We just needed to buy Bitcoin cheaper, and we needed you to want to buy our product, not MicroStrategy. I mean, it's just such a weasel politician-style move, and not really what the ethos of Bitcoin and crypto is all about. Hate the guy.
Yeah, can you imagine there was a figurehead within crypto that was pulling these kind of moves, right? Just like causing massive FUD, trying to destroy their competitors, and then launching copycat products and trying to get money to flow into those. I mean, we would hate him. We would detest that person. And yet here's Jamie Dimon getting invited to conferences. So make it make sense. But the good thing about this, I'm kind of happy to see that all that FUD was just based around them trying to get people to onboard to their yield-bearing Bitcoin product rather than MicroStrategy. Like, that's a better, I think, reason for this than I want to kill the industry, which was a scary thought. I mean, if the lawyer, one of the biggest asset managers, one of the biggest financial Wall Street giants is trying to kill Bitcoin, that's not a good thing. No, it just turns out they were trying to make money on their product instead. I'm much happier with that outcome. Hopefully MicroStrategy doesn't get delisted. I'm seeing now rumors that they may get added to the S&P 500. I don't know where those rumors are coming from, so who knows? Maybe the whole thing backfires, and I'm sure MicroStrategy will ultimately be fine. But here's Jamie Dimon, Bitcoin-backed bond. Now it all makes sense.
Wild. Again, that goes back to my rant about insider trading and the most powerful are allowed to get away with it, and the most powerful are allowed to blatantly do this stuff. I mean, couldn't even wait a week. Just wanted to get that news out there before Thanksgiving so you can all talk about it around the dinner table. Hey, did you hear JP Morgan's going to have a Bitcoin-backed bond? Maybe we should trust them because they're real legitimate players, even though they pay more fines than any crypto company in the history of the world. But yeah, let's trust them with our money. It's just, bankers are fucking scumbags. And I think this type of news just makes me realize why I got back into Bitcoin to begin with all those years ago. It brings it back to the forefront of just the scumbaggery that occurs in the traditional finance industry.
Yeah, you think they're scumbags in crypto. Wait till you go on Wall Street. But, I actually think long-term it's positive for
sure.
Bitcoin.
They have $4 trillion in assets. So, it is what it is. That's the
thing.
debacle win.
You talk about people around the Thanksgiving table and, that you can get in through JP Morgan. There's a lot of people that would prefer to get in through JP Morgan or their existing broker, their existing financial firm, rather than a Coinbase. Like a lot of people. And a lot of those people have a ton of money because they're, older folks, they're boomers mostly, right? So, from an adoption standpoint, price performance standpoint, JP Morgan has to hold the underlying asset to issue this bond, I'm sure, paying out the dividends somehow. I don't know where that money's coming from, but in any event, it's overall, I think, positive for these kind of instruments to exist out there so the boomers can get involved and get exposure. But yeah, JB Diamond's still a piece of shit.
I think that really covers everything today. We had some bullish news. We had some bearish news. Price action is consolidating and holding strong here. Well, let's see what the stocks are doing. Stocks are still up 0.5%. We are seeing red across some stocks that we follow and across a lot of cryptos, but it's all minor red. We would like it to see it catch up with the green day that we're seeing on NASDAQ. Come on, Bitcoin. Come on, ETH. Now is the time to grind higher and try to get above key levels. 95,000 Bitcoin is very important. $3,100 ETH is very important. Keep an eye on those levels. And, what are you going to do? We just got to wait and see. If you have dry powder, you probably should be buying on those green arrows that we told you that we were buying. And, stash a little bit of dry powder away if you want. That's what we still have, but it is very far and few between. As you know, we are very big in the trenches, very big proponents of altcoins and the upside potential that they will have in the coming months.
Seen people complain about Ethereum price performance over the years, because if you look and, the back past like 5 years, like 2,900, it's like every year it's like 2,900. Like Vitalik, why can't you pump our back? I don't quite look at it like that way, exactly that way. Remember, consolidations are actually healthy for an asset if you wanted to go higher and sustainably go higher. Because what's happening during this consolidation period? Well, what's happening is the early adopters or the non-believers who bought in early or whatever, they're selling out. And the people buying it at these levels, presumably most of them anyway, certainly Tom Lee and the other DATs, are buying it up and looking to hold. And now that's that money shifting from the weak hands to the strong. So I don't, the longer the consolidation, I know it's painful, I know it's annoying, you don't feel quite as rich today, but ultimately not a bad thing if it means we can get Ethereum above $10,000 and keep it there, for many, many years and watch it grind higher. So, yeah, not a bad thing.
The longer the consolidation, the bigger the breakout. The longer the consolidation, the bigger the breakout. The longer the consolidation, the bigger the breakout, question mark? I think so. Ethereum been outperforming Bitcoin since the low back in April of 2025. Bitcoin now 90,000, Ethereum closer to $3,000, and I think that outperformance continues. And you can see this consolidation in the Ethereum Bitcoin chart as well. I mean, doesn't this and this look very similar? This just looks longer to me, which means that is why you probably have the quants over at Thomas Lee saying, hey, Ethereum could teleport to $7,000. Bitcoin is not going to teleport to 180 on the same rate. That means Ethereum would outperform Bitcoin to the upside and have a potential a lot more in the tank if Bitcoin gets to 150, 180, or even my daunted 244,000 by the end of this cycle, which we believe will happen in 2026, not in 2025, due to the business cycle switching from 4 years to 5 years, and that is all shown in the chart of the ISM.
Yeah, I've seen that prediction. Tom Lee's, 7,000, I think by January. It's possible. I mean, we know Ethereum can make violent moves to the upside in short order and, run 100% or over 100% in a month or two. Does that mean it's likely to happen? I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to take the perfect set of circumstances. Obviously, we do have the Fusaka upgrade. We got QT ending, the rate cut. I mean, those are catalysts, no doubt. Is that a catalyst, though, for 100 and something% run in a month or two? I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think it gets to 7,000. Tom Lee's time horizons tend to be a little shorter than mine, though. He usually gets it right. The target's usually going to be correct. It just might take him a little bit longer to get there. But gotta love Tom Lee. Permable, bullish on financial markets, just as we are. And obviously now his company owns 3% of the entire Ethereum supply. So if you hold ETH, you better be rooting for this guy to keep shilling your bags.
Yeah, and his goal is still 5%. I think they get there pretty soon. And you got SharpLink Gaming, whose goal is still 5%. So we'll see what happens. My target for this cycle remains the same. You're going to have somewhere between a 12-to-1 to 8-to-1 ratio of Ethereum to Bitcoin. So if you think Bitcoin's going to 150, do the math. If you think Bitcoin's going to 200,000, do the math. And that all leads me to believe that Ethereum is vastly underpriced, not only in this market cycle, but also underpriced compared to Bitcoin currently. And that's why if you're choosing one and you want the same kind of risk parameter, I think Ethereum over Bitcoin is the play at this stage in the market cycle.
Yeah, its time's going to come. Ethereum's time's going to come. Bitcoin's time's going to come. Right now, I feel like most of the markets are trading these AI stock companies. These, the hyperscalers and the NVIDIAs and the Google, things of that nature. That's where the attention is right now. That's where the capital is right now for the most part. Obviously, there are true believers here. We're all true believers. We love crypto. But, most of the money and attention is in these AI trades. And that's fine. Let's let that hype cycle play out. Money will eventually flow down into crypto. And man, there's a lot of money to flow. There's a lot of money. Google just added like 300 billion overnight to its stock price. That's the entire market cap of Ethereum. Just let that sink in.
That is, wild. All right, if there's no more questions, we got Louis over here saying only holders and believers in crypto paradise. That is right. And then Frank said that JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon once said never ever buy Bitcoin. Yeah, these guys are scumbags. They're hypocrites, scumbags, and they'll say and do anything to make $1 off you. And I'm not saying people can't pivot, but when you go from being so extreme to now going to be one of the biggest profiteers off the industry, that's got to make you a little upset when you're somebody like myself who's been in crypto a long time and had to listen to all that. And really what he says influenced what I got and the how people treated me at my traditional finance job. I worked in traditional finance, and here you go, the CNBC's on the TV behind our offices, and it's him calling it rat poison. I'm here doing live shows on YouTube. So how do you think that affects the behavior of those around you and your coworkers? Not positively, so it is what it is. Now, the funny thing is, they're still schlepping away in their cubicles, and I'm here doing live shows, and although the times have been better than they are now, they've been worse than they are now, I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. and fight rush hour to go sit in a smelly cubicle like those people still do. So have fun to that, Bob, if you're watching.
There you go. The other thing I'll just add real quick is I don't mind Jamie Dimon pivoting his opinion. I don't mind Jamie Dimon building out Bitcoin-related products and profiting off of them. What I do mind is Jamie Dimon trying to kill competitors in an underhanded, fun-driven way, like trying to convince the MSCI to delist MicroStrategy and preventing investors of MicroStrategy from redeeming those shares through JP Morgan. There's other shady stuff that happened JP Morgan vis-a-vis MicroStrategy. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of smoke there. And so that's what irks me. I mean, that's, I think, really the underhanded, shady stuff that everyone hates about Wall Street. If you want to change your opinion about Bitcoin, or if you want to make a Bitcoin-related product, that's great. Go ahead and do you, but don't try to kill your competitors.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. And that's just what traditional finance does. And that's really what anybody in business does for the most part. But it's just annoying to see that at these critical moments in time. You're already on a big dip. You just had a liquidation crisis. And then you pour fuel on the fire rather than water on the fire and just FUD Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, one of the biggest Bitcoin holders, trying to make it go to zero is crazy to me. And before we head out of here, I will say that although price has been down, institutional demand continues to rise. Retail is going to be left behind, guys. All retail that is left is OGs, and they're saying the 4-year cycle is here, sell everything and walk away for the next 3 years. Meanwhile, institutions, while price is down, the number of institutions holding SBET, not even the number 1 Ethereum DAT, but the number 2 DAT rose from 40 institutions in Q2 to 138 in Q3. Institutional capital is looking for exposure to Ethereum and its yield, and the price of the asset does not change its underlying trajectory. Although SBET price has come back down to our original buys, and we gave it another buy in the same range, the ETH per share continues to rise as they have announced that they made, another thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of Ethereum simply by staking. Although they can't get fundraising to buy more ETH, they continue to stake, continue to compound, and the upgrades will mean even more yield in Ethereum per share moving forward for these leading Ethereum DATs, and the institutions are eating it up. Are you going to keep fading? Are you going to keep believing in the 4-year cycle? Or are you going to look at what the institutional players are doing? Are you telling me now is going to be the first time ever in history that the quants, that the power, that the institutions are going to win, are going to lose while the retail peasants win? Highly unlikely.
I'm sticking with Tom Lee's of the world, Joseph Lubers of the world, and I continue to hold Ethereum. I stopped staking it, though, because a little bit too much risk relative to reward, in my humble opinion. But that's another matter. I do want to leave with this final note because we always talk about macros, we always talk about Fed policy. Big data set just dropped today on jobless claims. Jobless claims dropped today. They actually came in less than expectations, but just a little bit. I don't think the jobless numbers, and by the way, they often revise them downward. That's consistently happening where like the initial data comes out, it says something, and then like, oh, oops, we were off by 90%. Revised downward to like 100,000 jobs. So anyway, the jobless claim is a little bit lower than expected, which is, I mean, it's good for the economy. It's good that there's people, not as many people like searching for jobs right now, I guess, and losing jobs. But I don't think it's enough to sway the Fed one way or another. Like my guess is if you were already in the let's cut camp, you're going to stay in the let's cut camp. And if you're in the let's not cut the rates camp, you're going to stay there. So I don't think this moves it too much. I doubt we saw a lot of movement on the poly market numbers. But there is a lot more data, I think, to drop here between now and December 10th. So we got, Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But yeah, my guess is we still get that rate cut, 25 basis point. Poly market, I think, is above 80% right now on that prediction. They usually don't get it wrong. So the jobless numbers, interesting to see. I don't think really moves the needle one way or another.
I would agree with that sentiment, and I think the job numbers are the most fugazi numbers in all of the government. They get adjusted more than anything. I don't know if they're like, oh, unemployment rate. It's like, I get it. Or unemployment crept up. It's like, but what is the proxy of that? Is that because there isn't jobs to get, or is that because people aren't looking for jobs and people are getting government benefits? I don't know. All I know is I drive around. I live in a big metropolitan city. Go down 5 minutes from here. There's a strip with a ton of fast food, ton of restaurants, business, whatever. Almost all of them have hiring now hiring stuff in their window. So I just think the job numbers and the unemployment numbers have a lot more going to it than just jobs available, people get job. It's like there's so many jobs available. Most people just say those jobs are below them or they don't want to get a job at all. And why would you if you're getting subsidized by the government, in which your subsidies would equal what a minimum wage job would pay you? Why would you go work?
The other thing I'll add to the jobless discussion, Trump's immigration policy is greatly impacting these numbers because if you all of a sudden have many less illegal immigrants that have come into the country or want to come in, that's going to impact how many people are looking for jobs at any given time. So is it a surprise that the jobless claims are down? Like people are looking for, not as many people looking for jobs. Well, there's not as many people as there were like under Biden. So you can't get too caught up, I think, in the government numbers. The numbers I like to look at, frankly, are these ADP numbers. The private payroll, I think, has more accurate, more real-time stuff, doesn't get revised nearly as often. They do look at that data point. I don't know if how much they weigh it, though. But bottom line is I don't think the jobless numbers one way or another move the rate decision. I still think we get the cut. And, yeah, we're going to look forward to Powell being gone because he has been behind the eight ball pretty consistently when it comes to Fed policy. We need to get someone out there who's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit ahead of the numbers rather than someone who's so backward looking.
I will say I liked the numbers for the chance of a rate cut last week when we were saying, hey, we're still on the camp of a rate cut is coming. So you can position your portfolios, you can position your bets however you want. At that time, there was only a 29% chance of a rate cut. 1 week later, it is up to 84% chance. Live show last Friday, 60% chance. Live show yesterday, 70% chance. Today, 84% chance of a 25 basis point cut with a 1% chance of a 50 basis point cut and a 16% chance of no change. If you believe that poly market is right more than the wrong, which they usually are, because remember, these bets go all the way up into the day before the meeting. So it's an aggregate of all information as it continues to go on. That's why it's so accurate, because people can continue to bet as more and more and more information come out all the way up until the last hour before it happens. Well, look at this, 84% chance. And why did I like the numbers before? I liked them at 29% chance because that led me to believe that the market isn't going to price in an interest rate cut. Also, if we didn't have one, you wouldn't see as steep of a sell-off. So now if in fact we have a no change, there's more likely of a chance of them to be a sell-off. Also, I think some of this will start to get priced into the markets. Now, the nice thing for us is stocks are already really high. And as this percent chance has crept up, so has stock prices. But Bitcoin and Ethereum were in a capitulation zone. So they're grinding higher, but from much lower levels. So I think any impact or a sell the news is going to be much lower in Bitcoin and ETH than it might be in the traditional stock market. But again, looks like we were right. When everybody, 72% of people said no cuts were happening, we were screaming cuts are coming, and now 84% have come to our side.
It may have been a minor sell the news, but I go back to one of my takes from yesterday's live stream. I think all these bullish catalysts, they may not have a material impact in the near term. As soon as the thing happens, hell, there may even be a sell-off. But you have enough of these things building up, and it's like pressure building, and then the dam breaks, and you have a massive move to the upside. So you get we'll now have had 3 cuts this year. My guess is they're going to continue to talk about further cuts into 2026. You'll have the end of QT on December 1, and they may start talking about QE or doing some more shadow QE behind the scenes, kind of financial engineering. You have Powell being replaced by a known dove. I don't know who that's going to be or when that announcement is going to get made, but it's going to happen relatively soon, before the end of the year. So all those things are happening before the end of the year. I think eventually at some point the dam breaks, the pressure's too much, and the financial markets and the risk on assets start to pump again.
Yeah, I mean, you can see here, this would be the 3rd interest rate cut, and then you have a chance of a cut in January, a chance of a cut in March, a chance of a cut in April, and then in May is when you get the Fed replacement. So, you have a chance of further cuts after that happens. Obviously,
can you check? Are people betting on those further ones?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yep. 62%, or we're at 34% chance for January. We're at 37% chance for March. We're at 30% chance for April.
Look at that. So the market, I guess, hasn't been watching the conferences. They haven't been watching what Powell's been doing and saying. But if they had, they would anticipate further cuts. He's stayed on the record a number of times that they want to continue to cut. They want to get rates lower. They're just kind of waiting on the data, this, that, the other. But this is actually kind of interesting for price performance on your assets. If everyone thinks that there's no more cuts coming and all of a sudden they come, well, great opportunity for upside move at that point.
Yeah, it takes time for the cuts to apply into actual liquidity in the market, like you said, and QE to go off. So the fact that you have so many more opportunities where there's high likelihood of cuts all in the near-term future, leading into, like I said, April 28th could be that'd be the 6th cut, and then in May is when Powell's probably replaced. So I don't even know if that would be the final cut if you're bringing a dove into the Fed.
Yeah, they want to get it down to neutral. They haven't really defined what their neutral target is. The speculation is somewhere like the 2 to 3% interest rates. And of course, let's have inflation around the 2%. Not an easy thing to achieve, those two things in balance. So they want it. We're at like 4% right now, I believe, on the Fed funds rate, and they got to cut a lot of times to get down to their quote neutral target. So plenty of opportunities coming up for those who believe that liquidity does move the markets. For those who believe the Fed is going to continue to cut rates and liquidity will flow back into risk assets here. We continue to be patient. We continue to hold. It has not been fun. But on a positive note, and maybe we can end on this, it feels like the altcoin market might be coming back a little bit. Obviously, we had the Monad launch that did very, very well, at least as of yesterday. I don't know where it's at today. But yesterday it pumped like 50%. A lot of people who were in that pre-sale did well. Some of the early VCs did insanely well. And I think it's overvalued. Let's just be clear. I don't think the valuation, fair market FDV is 2.5 billion or whatever it is when you don't have the traction to hold up those kind of valuations. But it's positive if you're in alts. And on another positive note, there seems to be some projects coming to crypto paradise for some marketing support, advisory, fundraising, things of that nature. Which a month ago that wasn't the case. But as the market's kind of climbing out of this hole, Bitcoin's grinding higher. We got these positive catalysts on the horizon. I think confidence starts to creep back in, and the market can unfreeze a bit from an altcoin standpoint. Very good.
Yeah, Bitcoin here at 86,800, Ethereum at 2,900. Again, we need to get above those levels to feel comfy, but slow grind higher, I like to see it. And, all these doom and gloomers still think the 4-year cycle is intact. And they will believe that until you get a new high. Like, we could rally all the way to 120,000 and they'll be like, oh, this is just a lower high. 4-year cycle still intact. I was right. We're still in a bear market, even though I just watched Bitcoin go from 80,000 to 120. So let's get new all-time highs in Bitcoin in January, February. Let's get some new highs in Ethereum January, February, and let's see if we can have some follow through and get the 5-year cycle narrative in play. And I'm sure, when that happens, you'll remember that we were very early to it, but all the other KOLs and pundits that get on CNBC, they'll be talking about why this is a 5-year super cycle, get bullish, get this, get that. And when that starts happening, we just need to start looking at taking some profits and being on the defensive.
That's exactly what's going to happen. When the price is high enough for them to come in and say, "Oh, look at Bitcoin 5-year cycle. It's going higher." That's your top signal. One quick comment from Bagito. I don't want to miss this. Market's going to dip for Monad. Sell pressure will hit, so Monad isn't quite a wise investment right now. I completely agree. I mean, there is going to be a lot of unlocked tokens hitting the market over the next, months, years even. I don't know the vesting schedule. But I don't think it's good to buy these overly hyped, massive valuation projects right after they launch. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get a 50% gainer in a day, but long term, if you want to hold that thing long term, it's usually going to be priced down, because there's going to be more sell pressure. Then there's going to be buy pressure. A new shiny object will come along. People forget about Monad. Retail won't want to buy it, but yet there'll all be all these VCs and early investors looking to sell out. So you don't really want to buy those. What you want to do is you want to be the guy that bought into the pre-sale.
Or got the airdrop.
People wonder how we made all our money in crypto. That's actually how we made all more money in crypto. I know, holding Ethereum, holding Bitcoin's been great. But, the big money is buying in early before everybody, and the thing does 100 times. That's what the VCs they're laughing right now. They invested $10,000, and that's a $1 million bag for them now, apparently, is according to what I read. So you want to be that guy early, buying the pre-sale, dumping on the later folks. You don't want to be the guy getting dumped on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pengu chart is a prime example of what Monad chart could look like, although you're in a different part of the cycle, so I don't think it can get this deep. But remember, Pengu came out. It was kind of a pre-sale, but also an airdrop. It had a $3 billion valuation or something like that. We actually gave a sell your airdrop. Whatever airdrop you got, sell it. I think it's overvalued. Oh, it climbed, Nick, for another week. Everybody's like, oh, why'd we sell? Holy cow, it's up another 12%. Well, boom, 80% drawdown. And then we said down here somewhere is going to be a low. We gave another sell up here on this rally. Oh my gosh, Nick, we sold it 4 days too early. Why'd we sell? And boom. Absolutely demolished in the liquidity crisis. Bought that, sell the relief rally, and now it's 60% down once again. You can't fight the trend forever. You can only swim upstream for so long. And when you have these big valuations out of the gate, that's backed on pre-sale investors, VCs, and airdrops, at some point, especially when you've been in a bear market this long as far as alts are concerned, people will take profits. People want to see profits. People have bills to pay. People want to better their life, want to solidify their future, and they will take profits because they need to stack profits in order to live life. That's just the nature of investments in general. So the Monad chart could look a lot like this. Again, I don't know if it gets this deep, but we have a prime example of a lot of this. You have Manta that did the same thing. You have Aster that kind of did the same thing. You had Hype that kind of did the same thing. The good products will rise again, and there will be a low at some point in which you can make massive gains, and they will survive cycle after cycle. But when you come out from zero to billions, usually you're going to need some kind of consolidation and sell-off as people take profits along the way.
Linear chart was likely the same.
Yep.
I know it had that big spike initially, and then it's just been a slow grind.
There you go.
Yeah, is that the linear chart? Yep. Oh hell, look at that! Jesus Christ, it's worse than I.
Everybody wanted it up here. Everybody wanted up here. We said no. We saw you're going to see at least a retest of these lows, and if those gave away, you're going to have a massive sell-off. Well, we didn't know the timing, but look at the timing. The first time this got tested was right during the liquidity crisis, and yeah, it virtually went to zero.
That's insane. Yeah, so there isn't retail to buy the dip. No one cares about the hype is gone.
Same thing. Zero to billions. Everybody wants it. Unwinding. So, I mean, that's just what's going to happen. It's just more about when the timing with the market cycle, can it catch a bid, where the low is going to be. And if you have conviction in it, you got to decide when you want to put your neck on the line and try to pick up pennies in front of the freight train. Ultimately, because there are so many pre-sale investors and airdroppers who will be selling, because we've been in a multi-year bear market. People need profits where they can get them. And airdrops, pat yourself on the back. I went from $0 to $1,000. Why not sell it? That's what you're going to sell first.
This is why I don't invest in these projects, newly launched projects, big valuation projects. Just too easy to get wrecked. I'd much rather put my, talking about moonbag money, put it into a pre-sale. They're not that hard to get into. I'm spending a lot of my time actually hunting now for pre-sales and for different marketing deals and stuff like that for Crypto Paradise. So if you're in the Surf DAO, That should be positive news for you. But you want to be that guy that bought in at the $10 million valuation and they launch it at $1 billion. Because you're guaranteed profits at that point for the most part. So that's what we're looking for. We are able to get those deals historically. We've shied away from them of late for the most part because the market really hasn't supported too many of them. But there will come a time when pre-sales are money printers, and we'll be there to print some money with you guys. So as long as we don't get this $70,000 Bitcoin dump that Martin's talking about, I mean, do we see that happening? Is that going to be happening? Would that not take another black swan, or that just could be just further structural weakness?
I mean, things can move quickly in the price. We saw that. So, I mean, if it wants to happen right here, right now, over the course of the next month, I guess it's potentially possible. After that, I don't know if it's so much possible unless there's some kind of black swan or the Fed doesn't cut rates. Because if you don't do it right here, right now, the road only gets easier for risk-on assets and investable assets as QT ends, interest rates cuts happen, and liquidity continues to grow.
Yeah, I don't see us dumping down to 70,000 absent some black swan stuff. Or yeah, like you said, the Fed surprises us, doesn't cut the rates, everyone loses faith. Powell comes out super hawkish. That could do it. So pray for that not to happen. Looks like 86% chance that will not happen, according to Polymarket. So I think we're in a good spot. I don't think there's a ton of downside risk here, and I think the whales agree. The institutions agree. They're the ones loading the dip here. And like Nick said, they tend not to be wrong.
Yes, sir. Well, we shall see. I think we should wrap this up. We'll get to more questions. Leave your questions, comments, concerns on the YouTube, on Twitter, on now Facebook, Telegram, wherever you're at. Make sure to share these if you get any insight. If you guys want to clip these up, go ahead and clip it up, because if you clip and post, that helps the algorithm. Also, Crypto Paradise will probably retweet that because we're the ones here talking. So why wouldn't we support you supporting us? So that's how people go viral. That's how people get big. It takes the community to do some efforts as well. And you know that Crypto Paradise has a token. So if we're right about the crypto market and you're pushing the growth of Crypto Paradise and we get more marketing dollars, more revenue, pulse chain surges, well, your bags go up into the right in a big way via Surf, a deflationary asset on Pulse Chain, in which incentivizes you with reflection rewards for volume and price. So gotta love it, and we hope that all of you guys can win with us the remainder of this cycle and for cycles to come.
Good stuff, ladies and gents. Thanks for tuning in. By the way, we are off tomorrow. We are off Friday. It is Thanksgiving here, so we'll be doing family stuff, watching football. Actually, I will be down in Tulum at the Paradise Pat, but I assume Nick's going to be doing stuff stateside. We'll be back next week with more live streams directly from the beach, in the case of myself anyway. So looking forward to that. And until next time, guys, we will see you on the beach.